Season 3 of Go Battle League has officially rotated into the Master League, and with it we have the reintroduction of the Master League Premier Cup. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the top meta picks for both the Open Master League as well as the No Legendary, No Mythical Premier Cup. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel, trainers. My name is Oro Chris. I am your catching coach. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We appreciate you stopping out. If you're interested in Pokemon Go, competitive PvP, and basically anything Pokemon related, consider subscribing. Now, as far as the Master League is concerned, there's been some minor changes as far as the Master League meta is concerned with regard to how it was in Season 2. If we take a look over at PvPoke's great infographic, PvPoke, if you are not familiar, we did a video covering the value that PvPoke brings as far as simulations and PvP rankings. Be sure to check out that video. Check out PvPoke itself. Invaluable resource. Highly, highly recommended. Moreover, follow them on Twitter and you will get access to infographics such as this, where they give information about their trainer battle meta. Now, on PvPoke.com, you can engage in trainer battle simulations where you're actually making the battle decisions in real time battle against an artificial intelligence using a opponent's team. And then what PvPoke does is they collate what teams folks are using in the trainer battle simulator, and then who's being successful on those teams and so forth. And then we get this information here in the infographic represented up on the screen. So we can see that some of the top performers as far as the Open Master League is concerned. And for those not familiar, the Master League is the no CP limit. Any Pokemon goes that's eligible for the Go Battle League. That means you can't use Ditto, but everything else is up on the table. And no restrictions as far as legendaries or mythicals. The Premier Cup, which we'll be discussing in a moment, has that limitation where you cannot use legendaries and you can't use mythical Pokemon. So no Deoxys, no Melmetal, no Dialga, and some of these Pokemon we're going to be discussing here. On this infographic, we can see that the only non-legendary in terms of the top performers that is making the cut, non-legendary, non-mythical, is Dragonite. At the very bottom here, we can see at a individual damage percentage of 111%, meaning that that Pokemon will do, considering some amount of damage included as far as shield usage on the opponent's side, they get out an extra 11-12% of damage past what their HP would otherwise be. So they win more matchups. And as far as their participation on team rating is concerned, they have an average team rating of 507, 500 being an even tie. So that means that more teams using Dragonite and these other Pokemon as far as the top performers typically perform better on the trainer battle simulations on PvPoke.com. Now, as far as the trainer battle meta on the simulations are concerned, we can see that Giratina Origin form, not altered form, Origin form, the top performer in terms of the trainer battle meta on PvPoke.com. Recommended moveset's going to be Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball, and Ominous Wind, or Dragon Pulse. Shadow Ball for sure. Ominous Wind potentially gives you the baiting option, gives you a lower energy charge move that you can use, bait out the shields of the opponent, and then when shields are down, hit them with the harder hitting Shadow Ball. But you are going to be walled by those normal types, Pokemon like Snorlax. So a potentially anti-meta counter coverage option would be having Dragon Pulse and Shadow Ball as the charge moves on the Giratina Origin form. Next up, we've got Dialga. I love Dialga. In my opinion, it is the best safe switch in the Master League. In the two-shield scenario, very few, Togekiss can do it, but very few Pokemon can beat out Dialga in the two-shield scenario. It does have some true hard counters, however. Melmetal, as we mentioned, for example. Metagross is a potential counter to Dialga. The difference being Metagross needs to very often land that bait as far as a Meteor Mash. If it gets the Earthquake shielded, it is very hard to pull out. I don't think it can pull out that two-shield win against Dialga, but with a Earthquake landing, you're going to be knocking out Dialga very quickly. That Steel and Dragon type Pokemon going to be taking super effective damage from ground type attacks, so having Earthquake on the Metagross, definitely very important if you're going to be using it as a Dialga counter. Moreover, in the mirror match for Metagross, definitely want to have Earthquake on your Metagross, and you need to have the Legacy, you need to have the Community Day version of Metagross. That's going to be with Meteor Mash. Absolutely crucial. A potentially anti-meta moveset for Metagross in the Premier Cup, which we'll discuss in a moment, would include potentially, there's an argument for Earthquake and Psychic, because you're going to have some more play and more typical anti-meta picks, and you're also going to have some outs against Pokemon like the flying types like Dragonite, for example. The preferred moveset, however, is definitely going to be Meteor Mash, but there's an argument you're going to get with Earthquake, you're going to be able to get the Mirror Match, and then with Psychic, you're going to have some outs against Pokemon that would otherwise, like Gyarados, that would otherwise be hard-walled opponents to a Metagross that's going to be running Steel type and Ground type attacks. A Flying Water type is not going to be too concerned with either of those particular movesets. Next up, as far as the top performers in the Master League, we've got Mewtwo. Now, this is non-Shadow Mewtwo. We had at GoFest the opportunity to get access to a Shadow Mewtwo. If you have still got your Shadow Mewtwo, do not purify your Mewtwo. That is a bad decision to make given the current game mechanics. If they change something where purified Pokemon do more damage, like the Shadow bonus we've got currently, potentially make that decision then. But for here and now, keep your Shadow Mewtwo a Shadow Mewtwo for sure. We've got Psycho Cut and Psystrike. Highly recommend having Psystrike on Mewtwo in the Master League. One, it's going to be its best moveset as far as PvE content, as far as raid and gym attacking is concerned. Moreover, Psystrike, even in not very effective scenarios, it has such a high damage per energy as far as a charge move is concerned. It is just so lethal, and it gives, with Psycho Cut, a very fast charging fast move. It gives Mewtwo a very lethal combination and a very good option as a safe switch, because Psycho Cut is going to be charging energy so quickly. Psystrike hits so hard against so many things. It therefore has a very solid matchup in a lot of positions in the Master League. If you're going to be running it as a safe switch, consider what Pokemon in your lead position you don't want to have a common weakness with your Mewtwo. So if your lead Pokemon is going to be a Pokemon that loses to Giratina Altered Form and Origin Form, for example, you wouldn't want to run Mewtwo as your safe switch, because Mewtwo ain't going to be able to swap into those matchups any better than whatever your Pokemon, your lead Pokemon, that's going to have the losing matchup against Giratina Origin Form. So think about that. Have your safe switch whenever you're trying to have one of those on your team. I highly recommend that you do have one. Think about, is this going to have a common weakness in any form to my lead Pokemon? Just something to consider as far as team building is concerned. Now, one thing that we do see that is different from past seasons of Go Battle League, it was available at the time, or maybe it came out just as Master League was ending, but Reshiram now making the top performers pick as far as the PvPoke simulations are concerned. Reshiram, a Fire and Dragon type Pokemon. That Fire type going to give it neutral, going to give it some resistance to Fairy type attacks. Normally, Fairy types are super effective into Dragon type Pokemon, but like Dialga, who is a Steel type, Steel types resist Fairy type attacks, and same thing with Reshiram. Reshiram is a Fire type, they resist Fairy type attacks, and as a result, not as hard countered against a Fairy type like Togekiss. Still going to be a losing matchup, however, but it does have a little bit more of an out as far as that is concerned. Recommended moveset for Reshiram going to be Dragon Breath, Crunch, and Outrage. One interesting thing to note, we've got Zekrom. Zekrom was definitely available for Master League in Season 2. Reshiram also going to be having a common weakness to the same thing as Zekrom, that being ground type attacks, as well as Dialga. So a lot of folks are running ground type attackers to hit super effective into Pokemon like Zekrom, like Dialga. As a result, Melmetal as well, having a common weakness as a Fire type, going to be taking super effective damage from ground type attacks, potentially going to be hurting its place as far as the overall meta is concerned. So when you're thinking about team building, consider the fact that virtually every team is going to have, for almost certainly, either a fighting type or a ground type attacker to hit into Dialga, Melmetal, and other Pokemon that are very, very present in the Master League meta. So just consider that as far as your team building is concerned. Same thing for sure true. We've got it out right now in Legendary Raids. We've got Heatran 2 times weak. Two times super, gonna be hitting for 2 times super effective, 2 times weak, 2 ground type attacks as a fire and steel type. A very solid anti-meta pick. Heatran, I maxed one out. I've used it in Master League. I think it's a very good Pokemon. But you can't use it with a Pokemon like Melmetal, like Dialga, because it's going to have too much of overlap. You're going to be hard countered by the same types of things, and you're going to be in a losing matchup if you come across the wrong team composition on the other side. So do consider that. Melmetal, mythical Pokemon. Now, Melmetal, for those not familiar, is a mythical Pokemon that you can get in mystery boxes. You can get Meltan and get more candies for Meltan from someone that has a Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu or Let's Go Eevee on the Nintendo Switch. So find a trainer in the local area or find someone with a Switch that has Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. Start getting those mystery boxes. If you have not built a Meltan, I would highly recommend it. It's one of those few Pokemon that is super successful in PvP in all 3 leagues. You can have great success with it in the Great League, Master League, and the Ultra League. Here, not going to be eligible because it's a mythical Pokemon in the Premier Cup, but still very popular as far as the Open Master League is concerned. Next up, we've got Kyogre. Kyogre, that waterfall damage, super effective. With the same type attack bonus, very, very powerful, fast type damage. It's on a team strategy. A very successful trainer, I think in the end of Season 1, was running it with Togekiss and Dialga, I believe, was the team composition. I think that was Lawler Sox's team's makeup. If I've got the specific trainer wrong, I do apologize for that. The rationale behind the team was the opponent has 2 shields, let him keep the 2 shields. We're going to do super high damage, fast type damage, and not use our charge moves if we don't have to. And as a result, they're going to potentially be taking more damage, thinking that, all right, I'm going to eat this charge move and then I'll save a shield for when I get hit with something later. And then by the end of the match, they're down to their last Pokemon, and you're just doing fast move damage because you're not going to be able to, the strategy behind it, you're not going to be able to get to 2 charge moves, so you're just going to wear them down with the fast move damage. So a fast move, high damage move like Waterfall, Dragon Breath, and then Charm on Togekiss was the rationale as far as the team composition for that is concerned. So, very powerful Pokemon, does very well in neutral matchups. That very solid base stats are as far as a legendary is concerned, but it is walled by those dragon types. So you consider that as far as team building is concerned. If you're going to have a Pokemon that's going to be hitting for not very effective damage into dragon types, and as we can see, Pokemon number 1, Giratina, dragon type. Dialga, dragon type. Now, dragon type for Reshiram as far as the top performers are concerned, but it's going to be taking neutral damage because its fire types are weak to water types. So not exactly the best example. And then the next Pokemon here on the top performers, Dragonite, another dragon type Pokemon. So we need to have some way to address those dragon types if we're going to be using a Pokemon like Kyogre. As far as the charge moves are concerned, Surf for sure. Surf for sure. 1 does very solid neutral damage. It's the lowest energy charge move that Kyogre has access to, so that's also very important as far as baiting out shields and hitting for good solid neutral damage. The secondary charge move, however, is very, very open to personal preference. When I run Kyogre, I've run it with Blizzard. Because of the reason that I was just mentioning, I face so many dragons in Master League, and you get to the end of the match, I was using Kyogre as my lead Pokemon. You find the opponent is running a Giratina, for example, you swap out into your safe switch, and then at the end of the match, you are left no shields down on the opponent's side, and if you've got Thunder and just Surf, you don't have enough hitting power to take out those dragon type Pokemon that are going to be resisting electric type attacks and water type attacks. But with Blizzard, Waterfall, it does take It's a slower charging energy as far as energy is concerned. Waterfall is as a fast move, so it does take a little while to get to Blizzard, but at least you have an option. You've got an out. So you bring in Kyogre against their second to last Pokemon, you farm them down, get a little bit of an energy advantage, especially if it's not a dragon type Pokemon. You're gonna be able to do solid neutral damage with that Waterfall, and then you can hit them with the Blizzard to close out the match. So very solid as a lead Pokemon in my opinion, but also very good as a closer when shields are down to hit for super effective damage. The alternative rationale as far as moveset is concerned is running Thunder, and that is going to help you tremendously in the mirror match against other Kyogre. If the opponent is leading with a Kyogre and you're leading your Kyogre, for example, always build up to the Thunder. Even if you don't have Thunder, if you've got Surf and Blizzard, build up to the Thunder and then bait, use your Surf or something else, or swap out into a Pokemon like Dialga that's going to be taking not very effective damage from the opponent's Thunder, and that way you've at least got some type of an out. And that was the strategy that the Mummy Dust was using when he was running this particular team composition in Season 1. I got a hold of that as far as watching a stream. Be sure to check out the Mummy Dust on Twitch. Very solid performer as far as streaming is concerned, but I adopted that strategy at the end of Season 1, and that's what helped get me to rank 10 in Season 1. That was definitely very important. Finally, we have got Dragonite. Dragonite, the only Pokemon here and the top performers that is also eligible for the Premier Cup. So if you're looking for a good bang for your buck as far as an investment, Dragonite, a very good performer in both the Open Master League as well as in the Premier Cup, where you're not going to be able to have access to legendaries and mythicals. As far as team composition is concerned, Giratina, a very solid lead Pokemon. Dialga in this top position here, a very solid safe switch. And then Mewtwo, as we mentioned, also a very, very solid safe switch. So both of those Pokemon, that's a very solid team as far as the performance is concerned, because you've got an out as far as a safe switch for both those Pokemon. Both of them do very well in neutral matchups. Both of them, all three of those Pokemon, potentially not Mewtwo. Mewtwo would beat out Togekiss, I believe, but the other two, depending on shielding, are going to have a little bit of a harder time with Togekiss. So you've got an out versus against really any opponent Pokemon as far as that is concerned. The next matchup, we've got Zekrom as a lead position, and then Mewtwo and Togekiss. Togekiss also a very solid safe switch, especially in a scenario like this, where in the lead position you've got a Pokemon that's going to be doing super effective damage versus water types, like those neutral hits against Pokemon like Kyogre. Togekiss does well, especially in its matchups against the dragons, but in neutral matchups against Pokemon like Kyogre, doesn't do quite as well because it's not a legendary Pokemon. It doesn't have the base stats to back up some of that to compete with some of those neutral matchups as far as legendaries are concerned. So having a Pokemon that's going to be able to take out those other legendaries like Kyogre, which is what Zekrom can do in that lead position. And then you've got also, as we mentioned, Mewtwo as a safe switch. Very good composition there. As I mentioned, we've got a lot of Pokemon, or a lot of teams that are running Melmetal in their lead position, hoping to catch opponent Dialga, as well as potentially Togekiss. Having Groudon as lead position is also a very solid choice. Groudon, with the introduction, you got to have the legacy moveset of Fire Punch. That was a exclusive move to the Throwback Challenge, I believe, this past summer. So be sure, if you're going to be using Groudon, you really got to use the Elite Charge TM, get Fire Punch on it, and then Earthquake is the nuke option as far as the charge moves are concerned for Groudon. The remainder of these teams are fairly similar compositions, just sort of switching up some of the other top meta picks. The one Pokemon we've not discussed here very much is Togekiss. Togekiss, a very, very popular Pokemon, has very solid matchups as far as the dragons are concerned, can beat out Dialga in the two-shield scenario, so be on the watch for that. Be sure to have some type of an out against a Togekiss, whether that's Metagross, whether that is potentially even Dialga, and you're going to get the opponent to burn two shields, so you're going to lose switch advantage, but you're going to have shield advantage at the end of that matchup, or potentially Melmetal. Now, as far as the Premier Cup is concerned, we can see that the top performer, the killer of the Premier Cup, especially last season, a lot of folks were running Metagross. Again, you have got to have the legacy moveset of Meteor Mash. That is absolutely crucial as far as the performance of this Pokemon. There is a potential argument that you could go with an anti-meta moveset of Bullet Punch, Psychic, and Earthquake. Psychic, very hard-hitting charge move, got buffed a couple of months ago. It has that stab bonus for Metagross, so that's going to help it in neutral matchups. In a mirror match, you need to have Earthquake, so those two things together can potentially serve as an alternative moveset. But generally speaking, the most successful moveset is going to include that Community Day move of Meteor Mash. Conkeldurr here, we've got on the top performers list Conkeldurr, a fighting type Pokemon, as well as Machamp, a little bit lower on the list. We can see that the strategy behind these Pokemon is going to be different, however. Conkeldurr not doing as much individual damage. The reason very likely being it's got 97%. It's going to be a Pokemon that in the back, when shields are down as a closer, because Dynamic Punch hits like a truck, Stone Edge hits like a truck from a Pokemon with a high attack stat like Conkeldurr, that is going to be more of a Pokemon you're going to be using as a closer in the back when the match is near or at conclusion. Machamp, however, is going to be getting more damage done according to these statistics because it has a shorter energy charging move, and as a result, Cross Chop is going to be able to burn through shields of the opponent more successfully, as well as Rock Slide, a faster charging charge move in comparison to Stone Edge on Conkeldurr. So as a result, Machamp potentially going to be a better lead Pokemon and a better potentially safe switch because it's going to be able to burn or earn energy more quickly and then get to those charge moves to do good solid neutral damage in more matchups. Conkeldurr, again, going to be better in the back as a closing Pokemon. So consider that. Both of them going to have an out as far as counter coverage is concerned against their primary threat. That's going to be Togekiss, but they're going to need to have enough energy or enough time to build up energy to get to those charge moves. Rock Slide being more costly as far as energy is concerned than Cross Chop, and then the same thing with Stone Edge on Conkeldurr versus Dynamic Punch. Regular Snorlax doing very well as far as the average individual damage contribution is concerned. It is at 121%. So very solid performance in that regard. As far as average team composition, its rating is 513, so very solid there. Lick, the only fast move you're going to be using on Snorlax in PvP is going to be Lick. Got to have that. Body Slam, virtually always the preferred moveset. That's kind of the non-negotiable. I've heard some folks make arguments for some other things, but I would highly advise keeping Body Slam. Now, as far as the other alternatives, they've got three options here. They say Outrage, Earthquake, and Superpower, but really, even Skull Bash is a very solid pick as far as Snorlax is concerned. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of variety that you can give Snorlax as far as its moveset is concerned, so be sure to consider what moveset is going to complement my team synergy the best when you're deciding what charge move as far as selecting that for Snorlax is concerned. Swampert, I did not see nearly as much Swampert as I thought I would in the Open Master League. Swampert was fairly common, however, in Premier Cup, and it is performing here very well. Mudshot and Hydro Cannon, definitely the preferred moveset as far as the first two are concerned. It's arguable whether or not you go with Earthquake and Sludge Wave. Sludge Wave is going to give you an out against those flying type Pokemon, especially those dragon type Pokemon. Dragonite going to be resisting water type attacks, going to have immunity to resistance to ground type attacks. So having a charge move that's going to be able to hit for solid neutral damage against them is going to be very important. And then also as a water type, it's going to be resisting steel type attacks. And a very solid counter to Metagross is Swampert. So you don't necessarily have to have the Earthquake to pull out that win. You're still going to be able to get the opponent's shields by having access to a fast charging, solid neutral hit like Hydro Cannon. Next up, we've got Dragonite, as we mentioned, the only Pokemon on both of these lists that is going to be successful in both the Open Master League as well as in the Premier Cup. Here, Dragon Claw and Hurricane, the preferred moveset. There's an argument for having either Outrage instead of Hurricane or Draco Meteor in the Master League. In the Premier Cup, however, with so many Pokemon, especially Togekiss running around, very common. You want to have an out against those fairy types. They're going to have immunity to resistance. If you do see the random Gardevoir, for example, but definitely Togekiss. So having Hurricane hits like a truck. It has that same type attack bonus from Dragonite. Going to be a very solid option. It's going to be able to at least hit for probably don't win those matchups, but you definitely leave the Togekiss in a bad spot as far as energy is HP is concerned. Machamp we've already discussed, and then Mamoswine. Mamoswine at the beginning of Season 3 getting that buff to Powder Snow. Definitely helping its placing here in the Premier Cup. Definitely a solid option. A Pokemon that did do very well in Premier Cup last season was Magnezone. As a ground type, it can have immunity tier resistance to those electric type attacks on a Pokemon like Magnezone. However, it can be taking super effective damage from Mirror Shot. So no such thing as a free lunch as far as that is concerned. Be on the watch for that. As far as team composition is concerned, a very solid starting team in Season 2 of the Premier Cup was Dragonite, and then the double steal strategy of Magnezone and Metagross. We can see that as the second option here. Very solid performance as far as that is concerned. I would be on the lookout for that matchup again. Same as far as rationale, as far as the team building is concerned. Look at how the successful teams are constructed and consider how are you going to be putting together your team strategy. So we've got Dragonite. Dragonite is going to be a dragon and flying type Pokemon. It's going to have 2 times weakness to ice type attacks. What resists ice type attacks? Steel types. What hits super effective into a ice type? Steel types. So those 2 Pokemon function very well together. Similarly, dragon type Pokemon are weak to fairy types. What hits for super effective damage into a fairy type? Metagross, a steel type. So those, again, you can see the synergy between those 2 Pokemon. Same thing on the next team. We've got Dragonite and Magnezone. Magnezone going to have 2 times weakness to ground type attacks. What does a flying type like Dragonite have immunity to resistance to? You guessed it, ground type attacks. So those things really function well. Same thing with that fairy weakness on Dragonite's part. A steel type going to be hitting for super effective damage with electric type attacks. As a steel type, it's going to be resisting fairy type attacks. So Magnezone again complements it very well. You can just see how these Pokemon really provide a good coverage for each other. Magnezone going to be weak to fighting types. A flying type like Dragonite going to be resisting flying types or fighting types. So consider that when you've got your lead Pokemon, what Pokemon can I have that's going to be a solid complement? And then on each of these respective teams, we can see that there's some other Pokemon that is functioning very often as a safe switch. So Snorlax, one of the safest switches as far as the Master League is concerned. It only has 1 weakness, that being fighting type attackers. And these other types of Pokemon are going to be able to address those fighting type weaknesses. Dragonite going to be winning matchups against the majority of the fighting types. Same thing with Metagross. So good, solid strategy. Have a lead Pokemon that is going to be just a good generalist. Something that is going to complement its particular strengths and weaknesses. That's what the secondary Pokemon here on these 2 teams we've been discussing does. And then have a safe switch. Something that's going to be able to come in, burn through shields, get energy advantage, and then do at least solid neutral damage and not have many super hard counters as far as the meta is concerned. But that will wrap it up for our meta discussion of Season 3 Master League. I'm excited to have this league back. Master League was my best league as far as the Season 1 of Go Battle League was concerned. I'm interested to see how the meta has shifted as far as the introduction of Pokemon like Reshiram, the changes to some of the moves as far as like Powder Snow on Mamoswine. I have a Mamoswine maxed out for raiding. I've tried it in Master League before, didn't have the most success with it. At the time that I was trying it, it was more of a super spicy pick, not necessarily the meta position that it is now. So I'm interested to see if it's going to be performing a little bit better. I do want to say thank you for sticking around until the end of the video, and until next time, happy catching.